Every case has a file. Every file hides the truth. Welcome to Index to Disclose, where secrets unravel and stories are exposed. June 12, 1994. A date that would become etched in American history. In the quiet, upscale Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, 2 lives were savagely taken. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, brutally murdered just outside Nicole's condominium. As police sirens pierced the suburban silence, a case unlike any other was about to unfold. The man once revered as a hero would soon stand accused. His name was Orenthal James Simpson, but to millions he was simply O.J. To understand the storm that followed, we first have to understand who O.J. Simpson was. Born in the housing projects of San Francisco, he rose from humble beginnings to football stardom at USC. Charismatic, fast, unstoppable, he shattered records in college and in the NFL. Off the field, O.J. was a brand. A smiling face in television ads, a movie star, a guest at celebrity galas. He transcended racial barriers at a time when America was deeply divided. He wasn't just a black hero, he was an American icon. But behind the dazzling smiles and applause, cracks were forming. O.J., his marriage to Nicole Brown, once the image of Hollywood romance, was anything but perfect. Police had been called multiple times to their home for domestic violence incidents. Friends spoke of jealous rages and possessiveness. Despite the public persona of a happy family, behind closed doors, the reality was far darker. Nicole, trapped in a toxic relationship, would later express fear of O.J. to those closest to her. On the night of June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were found brutally murdered outside Nicole's condominium. The crime scene was horrific. Both victims had been stabbed multiple times. The nature of the killings indicated a personal, frenzied attack. Evidence quickly began pointing in one direction: O.J. Simpson. Blood found at the crime scene matched his DNA, and even more damning, a bloody glove was found at his home. The case seemed like a slam dunk for the prosecution. But what came next would captivate the nation in a way no one could have expected. On June 17, 1994, O.J. Simpson was scheduled to turn himself in. Instead, millions tuned in as he led police on a low-speed chase across Los Angeles in a white Ford Bronco. With O.J. in the back seat and his friend Al Cowlings behind the wheel, the chase became a bizarre spectacle. It was an event unlike any before, with news networks broadcasting the chase live. It felt like a slow-motion car crash that everyone had to watch, but no one could look away from. The next chapter of the case was the defense, and it was unlike any legal team ever assembled before. O.J. hired what became known as the Dream Team, a group of the best and most expensive lawyers in America. The team was led by Johnny Cochran, who had a knack for courtroom drama, and Robert Shapiro, a sharp strategist. Alongside them were the likes of F. Lee Bailey, a tough cross-examiner, and Alan Dershowitz, a renowned constitutional scholar. This was no ordinary defense. This was a carefully crafted legal machine ready to dismantle the prosecution's case. The prosecution had what seemed like an airtight case. Blood samples from the crime scene were linked to O.J. His DNA was found at the scene of the murders, at his home, and in the car he had driven. The infamous bloody glove found on his property seemed to leave little room for doubt. The prosecution had eyewitnesses, forensic evidence, and motive. O.J. Simpson appeared to be the murderer, but the case was far from closed. However, the prosecution made several fatal errors. The most glaring mistake? The mishandling of the evidence. Key pieces of evidence were improperly stored or contaminated. The LAPD's incompetence and lack of attention to detail came under intense scrutiny. But the real blow to the prosecution came when Detective Mark Fuhrman was accused of racism. Tapes of Fuhrman using racial slurs were leaked, and his credibility was shattered. This became the cornerstone of the defense's strategy. Beyond the courtroom, the trial became a national spectacle, and it quickly morphed into something much bigger than a murder case. The American public was divided, and so was the media. For many African Americans, the trial was not just about O.J. It was about the history of racism in the LAPD and the justice system. It became a flashpoint in a society still reeling from the aftermath of the Rodney King beating and the 1992 LA riots. For others, O.J. was a criminal who got away with murder. The media, constantly running live updates, fueled the frenzy, turning the trial into a reality TV show. This wasn't just a courtroom drama. It was America's cultural fault lines on display. After months of testimony, hundreds of witnesses, and thousands of pieces of evidence, the trial finally reached its climax. The jury deliberated for just over 4 hours, a surprisingly short time for such a high-profile case. On October 3, 1995, the verdict was read aloud in the courtroom. O.J. Simpson was acquitted of all charges. In black communities across America, celebrations broke out. But in many white neighborhoods, the mood was one of shock and anger. The verdict didn't just divide a jury, it divided a nation. Although O.J. Simpson was acquitted in the criminal case, the legal battle wasn't over. In 1997, the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman filed a civil lawsuit against O.J. In this case, the standard of proof was lower. The jury found Simpson liable for the wrongful deaths of both victims and awarded the families $33.5 million in damages. Despite the verdict, O.J. never faced prison time for the murders. The public's perception of him was forever tarnished. The trial left a lasting imprint on O.J. Simpson's life. He became a pariah, shunned by many in the public eye. His once glorious career in football and Hollywood was over. Despite the civil trial ruling against him, Simpson continued to maintain his innocence, fueling the debate over his true guilt. His legacy became one of tragedy, a hero fallen from grace. But was it a fair trial? Did justice prevail? The O.J. Simpson trial had profound consequences. It changed the way the media covers high-profile cases, turning them into spectacles. It introduced the public to the power of race and identity in the justice system. It created a divide that still echoes in American society today. For many, O.J.'s trial was about race, and it was about how deeply embedded injustice runs in the American system. Others saw it as a cautionary tale about celebrity culture and the power of money. But whatever side of the debate you fall on, the trial left its mark on the American consciousness. Despite the dramatic twists and turns, the central question remains: was justice truly served? The criminal case saw O.J. acquitted, but many believe he was guilty. The civil case found him responsible, yet he never paid the price for the murders. The media turned him into both a villain and a victim. And even today, more than 20 years later, the mystery of O.J.'s true involvement lingers. In the end, the trial wasn't just a fight for O.J.'s freedom. It was a battle for America's soul. In the years following the trial, O.J. Simpson struggled to find a place in the world that once adored him. Endorsement deals vanished. Hollywood offers disappeared. He was no longer a celebrated athlete or a beloved actor. He was a symbol of scandal. Paparazzi hounded him, and his every move was scrutinized by the public. For a time, he retreated to a quieter life in Florida, playing golf and giving occasional interviews, maintaining his innocence. But the shadows of Brentwood never left him. In 2007, O.J. Simpson once again made headlines. But this time, there was no ambiguity. In Las Vegas, Simpson was arrested for armed robbery and kidnapping after he and a group of men stormed a hotel room to reclaim what he claimed were his own sports memorabilia. Unlike his murder trial, this time the evidence was clear and overwhelming. No dream team, no national sympathy. In 2008, Simpson was convicted and sentenced to 33 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 9 years. Justice, some said, had finally caught up with him. Behind bars, O.J. Simpson lived a very different life. By some accounts, he adapted well to prison, playing sports, mediating disputes between inmates, and keeping a low profile. But the once glamorous life he had known, the red carpets, the luxury cars, the adoring fans, was gone. In 2017, after serving 9 years, Simpson was granted parole. His release sparked yet another national conversation. Should a man who escaped justice once be allowed a second chance? O.J. Simpson's story never really left the spotlight. The trial inspired countless documentaries, books, and even a major television series, The People vs. O.J. Simpson. It remains a subject of endless debate, analysis, and fascination. The phrase, "the trial of the century," is now forever tied to his name, and the questions that trial raised about race, fame, and justice continue to ripple through American society today. O.J. Simpson didn't just change the law, he changed the culture. More than 2 decades later, the O.J. Simpson trial still feels fresh. It was a moment when America saw itself reflected. The good, the bad, and the deeply uncomfortable truths about its justice system. It showed how fame can bend perception, how race can overshadow facts, how justice is not always black and white, but tangled in shades of gray. O.J. Simpson walked free from the courtroom that day, but in many ways he would never be free again. His story remains a haunting mirror of America's own struggles, and it asks a question we're still answering. What does justice really mean?